others should change. That is for a fact. Any change of this number, if one of them changes a value, then all the other values should also change. And because of this, find the percentage change in P. Find the percentage change in P. When Q is increased by 10% and R is also increased by 5%. So it's not an increase. It's just a first example. You notice what I'll do then when we are doing the next question, kama kuna any change utaona. So I'll repeat again. Nimesema, this question will be such that they will tell you, given that P varies directly as Q and inversely as R. Find the percentage change in P when Q is increased by 10% and R is also increased by 10%. 5%. And I've already said that in variation, anytime a value changes, the other value can also change. Or the other values can also change. So, kwa sababu, there is a change in Q and R, then you expect P to change. This is how we start. Before any change in anything, kama kitu iko original, we refer to it as it is full and it is 100%. So, before any changes happened, P was 100%, Q was 100%, R was 100%. That's where it all starts. So any change that happens, if it's an increase, it adds to the original 100% that was there. And if it's a decrease, you subtract it from the 100% that you had. So for this question here, we'll start by first of all rewriting this statement to toy the variation sign. So this statement should read as P equals to K, Q, then over R. That is the first statement. Ukishapata hii, then inamaanisha hivi. If there is a change in Q and R, there will also be a change in P. Then inamaanisha, from this statement, you come up with another new statement so that there is another P which is not this 100%, because if this other values change, it also changes. So it becomes P1. P1 will be the same as K, Q1 over R1. So, nataka unielewa hapo vizuri. These are the values of P, Q, and R after these changes that happened here. And these are the values of P, Q, and R before the changes. Higher. But now, in the question to Mabua, Q increased by 10%. So, this new Q, which I'm calling Q1, will be 100 plus 10%, which is the same as 110. But this 110, it is percent. So it is 110 over 100, which is the same as 1.1. But this 1.1 is a change of something. So ukiandika Q1 unasema Q1 in relation to the original Q is the same as 1.1 of Q. It increased by 10%. The next one, there is R. R, now there is R1. R is 100%, but R1 increased by 5%. So inamaanisha, R1 is the same as 105 over 100, which is the same as 1.05. But this 1.05 is of something which was there before. So tunasema R1 is the same as 1.05 of the original R. Nianze tena ama niendelee?
Anza tena.
Even umeona? So, let me start. Naanza na msikize vizuri for the last time. Sitaanza tena ingine ya tatu. So, nimesema hivi. Tunafanya leo something which is kidogo different from the joint variation that we did yesterday. And I said it, nilisema jana, before we even do this. So, in this sample question I'm using, the question is supposed to be, given that P varies, this P varies directly as Q and inversely as R. And find the percentage change. Sasa hizi ni questions za percentage change. So it is, find the percentage change in P when Q is increased by 10% and R also increased by 5%. So, nikasema hivi, in variation, anytime any value in those terms changes, the others will also change. Ni kama tu hata human being. The more you keep living, ukikula, hautakuwa the same venye ulizaliwa, mwili pia inaongeza. Ukisema variation unamaanisha to something close to that. So anytime something changes, the others will also change because they work together. These things here, these numbers P, Q, and R actually change together. So when one of them changes, the other changes. So ikikuwa P varies directly as Q and inversely as R, inamaanisha this P is 100%, Q is 100%, R is 100%. But then tunaambiwa Q increases by 10% and R increases by 5%. How will P increase in terms of percentage? So that's why I say that first utaanza tu kama kawaida. Toa variation sign, bring in the equal sign. So you'll have this statement, P equals to KQ alafu over R. This first statement here. P equals to KQ over R. Now, what this statement means, hapo ndo tunaanzia. The meaning of this statement is, this is the original P, the original Q, the original R, before any change. So, kama ni hivyo inamaanisha, this P is 100%, this Q is 100%, and this R is 100%. After this statement, nimeandika another statement for P, Q, and R, but I didn't call it P, Q, and R. Nimeita P1, Q1, R1. Why? Because the statement I've written here is the new values of P, Q, and R after these changes here that we talked about, where Q increased by 10%, R increased by 5%. So, ukiona nimeandika P1 equals to KQ1 R1 represents the new values of P, Q, and R after these percentage changes. So then from this, nikarudi back to those values that increased. Q1, which is this new value. Q1, it is the value after a 10% increase. But 10 increase of what? Of the original Q. Original Q was 100. So if you add 10, you get 110 over 100, which is the same as 1.1 of Q. So it's correct to say that Q1 is equals to 1.1 of Q. R increased by 5%. So inamaanisha, the new R, which you're calling R1, is the same as 1.05 of the original R. So nilifika hapo. So I have to proceed now. Nimerudia that part, hoping that kama uko umeelewa, so you understand. So the next thing I will do is, I want to go back to this statement. His statement here, this one. The one I'm highlighting, this one there. And what I want to do is, on this statement, I want to rewrite it to get the new values of P1 in relation to the original Q, the original R, with respect to the values I got here. So nitaandika P1 is the same as K into brackets. Q1 is the same as 1.1 Q. So naandika hapo 1.1 Q. Bala ya kuandika hapa Q1, I write this value of Q1 I got there, which is the same as 1.1 Q. Alafu there is over. So I'll write over. Alafu, bala kuandika R1, I'm going to write the new value of R1, which is the same as 1.05R. So what I've done here, I've written the value of P1 in terms of the original Q and the original R. Actually, I want to relate. Saa ingine mtu akifanya question for the first time inakaa kidogo ngumu, lakini si ngumu. Hii ya kwanza watu wanaweza kuwa wanafinya macho, masikio wanashindwa sasa anasema nini. But tukimaliza kama utakuwa umeelewa alafu tufanye the second one, you'll be okay. So you don't worry. Just try to follow what I'm doing. So I have a question. Niko na two values of P, kuna hii P hii hapa na kuna P1. Two equations of one is P, the other one is P1. So I have this question to ask. What's niandika on this other page? Nitarudi back. Tuseme ulikuwa umenunua kitu 40 shillings. Alafu uuze 50 shillings. How do you calculate the percentage profit? Anyone? Save time. How
50
do you calculate
minus 40.
You say
50 minus 40.
50 minus 40, which is 10
Over 50. Over 40.
over 40
Times 100.
left times 100. So Ahmed, basically, what did you do?
You got first you find the profit, then you say the profit divided by the buying price times 100.
So percentage profit unamaanisha ni profit over the original alafu times 100.
100.
You said it. Na nimeuliza hiyo because unajua saa ingine mtu akitumia letters kuexplain vitu, saa ingine watu wengine uchanganyikiwa. Wanashindwa sasa hizi letters sielewi. Lakini I wanted that explanation so that if I explain this next thing I'll do, mtaelewa. Hii question iliuliza find the percentage change in P. So if you want to get the percentage change in P, unasema the new P minus the original P over the original P times 100. And that statement will be written as P1 minus P over P alafu times 100. Don't be confused with the P's. It is just the same thing like here Ahmed explained. If you want to calculate the percentage profit, unasema the selling price minus the buying price to get the profit. Your difference in your profit. Alafu over the buying price, which is the original, then times 100. So hapa, if I want to get the change in P, I'll say the new P minus the original P over the original P times 100. But then, next, I want to bring in the exact numbers. Exact numbers ni P1, nitaandika this value. Hii yenye iko hapa hii. So P1 is the same as K into 1.1 Q alafu over 1.05 R minus the original P. The original P is the same as K Q over R. Alafu over the original P, which is K Q over R. Alafu times 100. Yes?
Just you unasema your Q1 and over R1. You
hapana. Kwa nini? Ona tu venye nimeandika hapo juu. Ukifuata what I've written hapo juu, nime explain P1 minus P. Angalia value ya P1. Wacha ni highlight kama uone. P1 P1 is same as this statement. That's why I was changing. So P1 is this, na ndio hiyo nimeandika hapo. Minus P. P ni hii. Hii hapa. Which is the same as this. Over P. Same thing. Alafu times 100. So.
Yes, Malim, thank you.
Before I did this, at least I was supposed to simplify this statement here. Lakini nilisahau ku simplify. So let me just simplify it here. Alafu in the next question tuta simplify huko mbele so that isisumbue. What is the answer for? Namaanisha hii. I want to simplify this. Hii hapa. Hii hapa. The one I'm highlighting, ndio to factorize haraka. So, ukitaka kusimplify hii, kwa calculator unaandika 1.1, you only work the numbers on a calculator. So, andika 1.1 divided by 1.05. what is 1.1 divided by 1.05?
1.05.
Yeah?
1.05.
1.047.
Inarudi to 1.05.
Yes.
1.1.
1.047.
Huh? Usiround off.
1.0.
1.05.
1.0476.
1.76. Yeah, that's okay.
Yes.
What's on your hiyo? Hasa wana venye na simplify. I'm rewriting this statement. Then mbele yake nitaandika K, Q, lafu over R. Notice this. Hii namba nimeandika hapa, it is just a short form of this. Hii namba yenye nimeandika hapa. Alafu minus KQ over R. Alafu over KQ over R, then times 100. The next thing that I will do from here, inaitwanga kufactorize. Kuna like terms. Ona hii numerator, kila mahali kuna KQ over R. Pia hapa kuna KQ over R. So if I factorize this statement, na zote zitakuwa tu hivyo, zenye utapata ukifanya. So you'll write KQ over R into brackets 1.0476 alafu minus 1. I have factorized. Then over the numerator, which is KQ over R, alafu times 100. So when you proceed doing that, it's obvious that this KQ over R and this KQ over R zita cancel. Then you will remain with 1.0476 minus 1, which is the same as 0.0476. Then you multiply by 100. Now, times on 100, what do you get? You'll get something like 4.76%. So this is the change in P. If you're doing the question, the value of change in P, it's about this one here. Mmepotea aje? Kuna mtu yote ameelewa?
Nimeelewa.
Ai, Afnan. Thanks. Afnan ameelewa? Who else? Only Afnan ameelewa?
Mimi.
Afsa ameelewa? Maya ameelewa?
Mimi.
Okay, sawa. But kuna wale wenye hawajaelewa. So we have to repeat. Unajua, nita keep changing these questions, niki bring in some different numbers baadaye, hizo square root squares, but bado. So I want to be very fair to everyone. I'm going to do the second example, but haitakuwa much different from this. The only difference is kidogo and be fast. So as I'm doing, ujue nafanya, nikijua nisha explain one of the questions, so this should be faster. Expect it to be fast kidogo. Aya, sawa. So listen to this question. I'm using the same letters kama zile zenye nilitumia. Ama nitumia something different. Let me use A, B, and C. So given that A varies directly as B and inversely as C, the question is, find the percentage change in A, given that B increases, B in an increase. Kutakuwa na difference kidogo, just watch. Given that B increases by 15% and C decreases. So kuna moja ina increase, ingine ina decrease. And C decreases by 10%. So we are supposed to find the percentage change in A. The process will be, first of all, rewrite this statement to get that new statement. And that new statement will be A equals to KB over C. That's the first. Then there'll be a new relation between A, B, and C after the increase. And that new relationship will be A1 equals to K B1 over C1. Hope you're following. Hi. Ukishaandika these two relations, this is the original before the change. This is the new one after the change. Now you bring in the values of B and C after the change. So inamaanisha badala ya B tutakuwa na B1 because B changed. And the new B1 becomes 100 plus 15, which is 115 over 100. And that gives you 1.15 of the original B. The next one, C1. C was 100%, but it decreased by 10%. So if kama ime decrease, unasema 100 minus that decrease. So it's 100 minus 10, which is the same as 90. So the new C1, itakuwa 90 over 100, which is the same as 0.19 of C. So I have the two new values, B1 and C1. Haya, nikishafika hapo, I go back to this statement here. This statement. And in this statement, I'm going to replace B1 and C1 with the new values that I got. And here we go. So I'm writing this equation here. I'll write A1 equals to K. Then instead of B1, I'm going to write this value. Here. So itakuwa 1.15B. Alafu over. Instead of C1, I'm going to write this value here, which is the same as 0.9C. Before I proceed to the next step, let me simplify this. Hapo ndo nilisema, sa ile siku simplify mapema. Right now I'm simplifying. So can we simplify this? What is 1.15 divided by 0.9?
1.277.
1.277.
277?
7 ingine.
7. Alafu nitaandika nini mbele yake? K, alafu B, alafu over C. So I've simplified that statement. This is my new A1. Then from that step, tunaenda kwa percentage. Once umepata the new A1 na uko na A, unaenda kwa percentage change. So percentage change will be A1 minus A over the original A, alafu times 100. So you replace those values exactly just like you have them. So I'm going to write 1.2777 KB over C minus the original A was KB over C, alafu over the original, which is KB over C, then times 100. But now you can see from the numerator that KB over C is common in both places. So we factorize. You write KB over C, then into brackets 1.2777 minus 1 over the denominator is KB over C, alafu times 100. And then it's obvious that KB over C is common in both the denominator and the numerator, so they will cancel. So kama zime cancel, the final answer will be 1.777 minus 1, which is 0.2777, alafu times 100. The answer should be 27.77%. There's one thing I want to add on this now. Ukifanya question, alafu upate a positive answer, huku mbele unaongeza increase. Inamaanisha A increased. In case I got a negative answer, ningefanya hivi. Let's say, nilifanya hiyo question nikapata negative 10.2%. Ningerudi niandike which is equals to 10.2%. Alafu mbele yake niandike nini? Decrease. It means the value decreased. But if it's positive value, it is an increase. How is it now? Kama kuna anyone else mwenye hapo ameelewa, anaweza kuwa ameshika ama hajashika sema.
Teacher,
Yes.
unaandika positive 27.77 increase ama unaandika to 27.77%?
Kama ni positive, kama ni positive, You don't need to indicate the positive. Unaandika tu
Oh.
27.77% increase. But kama ulifanya ukapata negative answer, utarudi uandike a positive value, alafu uandike mbele yake decrease.
Decrease.
Sasa?
Oh.
Aha.
Sawa.
Yes, mwingine?
Yeah, what do you say about this one, 10.2 and 27.7?
10.2. I said that sometimes nimeelewa question. I said that sometimes after working out the question, you may get the answer as a negative value because you'll always say the new value minus the original value over the original value times 100. So there is a possibility that tutafanya tu, utaona to that. There is a possibility that you can get a negative answer. So if you get a negative answer like negative 10.2%, that's your final answer. Utarudi mbele yake uandike which is equals to, then write positive 10.2%, but mbele yake uandike nini? Decrease. It means that A decreased in that process. While those others were changing, the A value decreased by, changed by decreasing by a certain percentage. Ahmed.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Nimeelewa.
Mwingine? Hakuna mwingine. So nauliza, before I change the concept, mnaweza jaribu question plain kama hii yenye nime-explain tu. Can we? Before we change.
Yes, mwalimu.
Aya, sawa. So it's important for the notes. So ni vizuri tuandike. Na kama mtu atapotea, nitarudisha hii page so that you check, even though you have less than 7 minutes ya kuangalia vizuri. So write this question. Andika. It is still under joint variation too, but it's only that the questions are percentage. So andika. A varies directly as B and inversely as C. Find the percentage change in A if B is increased by 10% and C is increased by 20%. So try. Sijui kama mtamaliza within 5 minutes. Kama mtamaliza unajua time itakuwa imeisha, lazima tupate answer in the hiyo nyingine tukifungua. But try and wait. Bado nitangoja nione kama mtamaliza.
Mchoko percentage.
Yeah?